All right, welcome back to another episode of Endurance Insights with myself, Coach Mark Cullen. I'm going to go through today and do a little bit of a different episode because we got the Ironman World Championship final iteration in Nice, France coming up this coming Sunday. So I figured I'd do a little preview and talk through some of the top competitors in there and maybe give my prediction picks for the end. And you can always send me your picks after and we can get a friendly wager going if you want. But no, I'm not too confident with my picks here because this is a insanely stacked field that I think any one of 30 guys could be in the top 10 or even top 5 in this race. That is how deep it is. But I'm going to go through the list here and see if there's any guys we are maybe sleeping on, and obviously go through a bunch of the favorites here. If you want to be watching this on YouTube, I have the list up here. But if you're just listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I'm going to just talk about the name and a bit of their pedigree and how I think they'll maybe play into the race. So let's start with number one. We got Patrick Lange, three-time world champion. Everybody slept on him last year when he was 6 years between victories, but to sleep on this guy and his run pedigree on this course, he came second a couple years ago to Sam Laidlow. And just to sleep on this guy, I think you can never let him off the hook. He is dangerous. He can swim pretty close to front pack. He's a super light guy. Looks like he's been spending lots of time in the mountains. So if he can keep himself in the mix within, call it 5 minutes of the front of the race going onto that run, we know he can run low 230s, if not under 230, with some of the shoe technology and fueling and stuff these days. So never rule this guy out. I think he's definitely going to be in the mix. I'll do my podium picks at the end. Number two on the list, Magnus Ditlev came third last time. Patrick Lange passed him late. Has had a little bit of a weird year. He had that win at South Africa earlier this year, but we haven't seen a whole lot from him the rest of the year, so maybe he's been saving it up. Obviously, big power guy, but tough on a bigger course like this, on a super hilly one that has insane amounts of elevation on it. But then again, if he swims pretty close to front pack or maybe in that second pack and can keep himself in the mix or be able to bridge up to the front with somebody like a Sam Laidlow or Jonas Schomburg, who's likely to be up there, then and he can get a gap on some of those really fast runners like a Blumenfeld or a Patrick Lange, then he might have a chance of again securing a podium there. I just don't see him as a. I think there's too many other people with a lot of other threats in there that can take him down. So I don't see him grabbing the win. Rudy Von Berg, a guy you can never rule out. He's always kind of right around that podium spot when it comes to these world championships and always shows up. But again, I feel like he never has one pure weapon to help himself get kind of that next level top result. He's always kind of floating in that 3 to 5 spot and ends up getting outrun or gapped a little bit too much on the bike. But we saw he went psycho mode on this course last time. He this is like pretty much a home race for him, and he grew up on these roads. So it's going to be really interesting to see if he can do any sort of big type of bike that allows him to get in the mix or maybe in a breakaway again with some of those top group guys there. So Rudy Von Berg, don't rule him out, but I see him finishing more in that 5 to 10 range as he usually does. Another guy I see in that 5 to 10 range, Leon Chevalier. He can obviously do all three pretty well. Swim, he's sometimes a little bit weaker on, so then he's playing catch up on the bike. And I think with how much power there is at the front of the race that he's going to see himself a little bit out of the mix and probably in that 5 to 10 minute range off the bike. He's a really solid runner, probably runs something in the mid 230s. So probably claws himself up in that 5 to 10 range. But again, I don't see him as a threat necessarily on this course for the overall podium. But again, a French guy who's going to be probably pretty good at descending and strong on these roads. So can't rule him out, but again, I don't see him on the podium per se. So as of now, I feel like I've only said maybe Patrick Lange and Magnus Ditlev that I see as sort of some podium threats in there. Next one up, Sam Laidlow, coming off the win last time here and has kind of, I feel like, slow played everyone a little bit this year and come on really strong at Challenge Roth and Leeds and a couple of those races. He's looked really good. So I think he's gonna be a threat for the podium again, and he's gonna be looking to hopefully have some partners with a guy like Jonas Schomburg to hopefully get way up the road and have a 5 to 10 minute gap on the likes of Blumenfeld and Lange and stuff like that. And he showed he can run in leads. I think he ran upper 230s. So if he can run himself in that 235 to 240 range, he forces those guys to run under 230 to get back up to him. So I could very well see him winning the race again or landing on the podium here. Number six on the list, Gustav Eden. Uh, I feel like I've noticed a really big difference in his vibe on social media and his sort of momentum that he's been getting throughout the year. And obviously, he has some history here with 2019 winning 70.3 worlds there. So I'm actually thinking Gustav is going to be a big threat for the podium in this race. And I think he's going to swim a near the back of the front pack, bike really well, and probably be either a near the front or kind of a near that 3 to 6 minute group behind Sam Laidlow getting off the bike. And I think he's running really well and can start to be running maybe in that mid to low 230s and put himself in the mix of the podium here. Number seven, Christian Blumenfeld. So he's obviously had a massive start to the year, a bunch of big wins, crushing it in the Pro Series. There has been a few red flags recently that a few people have pointed out that he's looked first very lean, and it looks like he had to drop a little bit in one of their big sort of brick workouts where they did like 160K of the course and a 30K run off the bike, that he only got through the first 10K of their 30K progression, and one that Gustav crushed pretty good. So I feel like this is one where his KB maybe got a little fit too early and screwed himself over for this. I guess we'll see on race day. But if we see the KB, we know he's obviously going to be a threat for probably the win, especially if he can get a little bit of a gap on a guy like Patrick Lange and get close to Sam Laidlow or up to him off of the bike. We know he can run probably low 230s, if not under 230. And he's just a powerhouse and obviously is got to be a favorite for the win if he hasn't screwed himself. So I feel like those are between Christian, Gustav, Sam Laidlow, Magnus, and Patrick. I feel like those guys are probably going to make out most of the top five. Some other names as I go down the list here, Cam Worth. I feel like he's going to be a threat on the bike, but I think just swim and run won't quite get him on a podium spot. Christian Hogenhag has had an amazing year, been in the mix, and he showed in a few of those races where he was riding off the front that he's super strong. But again, I think he's still going to be probably in that second pack off the bike and probably doesn't have quite the run some of those top guys do. Matt Hansen, I think we're going to see him probably run 230 or lower, but probably have too big of a deficit off the bike to really be in the mix. I think a guy like Jason West, you could say the same thing about. Matthew Marquardt, I think he's going to be in the mix in this race for a long time, probably all the way till the end of the bike. And he showed some good run this year, but I think he's probably again going to be a little bit gapped from a guy like Sam Laidlow and get off closer to Christian Blumenfeld and probably get gapped by 5 or 7 minutes off the bike on that side of things. Finn Grossefresse, I believe I've heard his name pronounced on podcasts. He's looked really good this year. Again, another guy who's going to be in the mix all the way and could really start to push for that top five if he can have a decent run. Sam Long, I just feel like he's not going to make a whole lot of time up on the bike, and with how strong these front swim packs are, that I think he's just going to have too much of a gap to get himself in the mix. And so many of these guys can run just as fast as him that I see him maybe sneaking into the top 10, but I don't see him getting up to top five in a race like this. Um, as I go down the list, a guy I'm really excited to see is reigning T100 world champ Martin Van Riel. I know he has struggled recently with some run issues, but when that guy's running at the top of his game, he can run with the best of them and probably run that low 230. And we know with these T100 guys, they can swim and bike like mad. He's a great descender, lives in the mountains. So I could see this guy being in the mix late in the race. And if his run has come around even slightly, I could see this guy getting in the top five, even threatening for the podium or the overall win in this. So I don't think you can rule him out. Another Norwegian, Casper Stornes. I don't think you can rule him out either. I feel like he'll probably sneak somewhere in the top 10 there, but probably fade back a little bit on the bike and run. But we'll see him up there early in the race. Two other names I see down the list here that are super interesting. Jonas Schomburg, that guy has been a maniac in some of the races and just gone absolutely nuclear on the bike. He swims front pack, often like first out of the water, and you know he's probably going to be teaming up with a guy like Sam Laidlow and going insane on those two big climbs. But I think what we're going to see is maybe on the descent, him start to lose a little bit of time, and if he overcooked that bike, probably have a bit of a rough run. But if this guy can pull together a decent run, he is going to be a player in this, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up somewhere near the top five. But more likely, I feel like he probably blows up and ends up a little bit more like in the 10 to 20 range. Another interesting guy, young buck Jamie Riddle. He's really featured with his swim bike prowess in a lot of these races, and I think we'll see him probably as a lighter guy up till maybe the end of the second climb in that first or second sort of pack, but then probably fade off a little bit on the descent and the run as he's still sort of building up. But man, this guy in the next couple of years, I think, is going to be a serious world championship competitor. So exciting guy to watch and a guy I love to follow on social media. I already mentioned Jason West. I think he'll run himself up close to the top 10. Antonio Benito Lopez, another interesting one, swims, bikes, runs really well, showed pretty good at Texas. Obviously, has done decent in some of those T100 races. So I feel like a guy who might be able to start to threaten for the top 10. A guy I'd love to see do well, but I just hasn't quite proved it over the last little while is Daniel Backegard. I'd love to see that guy do well, but just hasn't shown it over the last little while and just seems like an all around good guy. So I'm hoping he could maybe show his prowess of old and get up there, maybe in the top 10, but I'm not sold yet, so we'll see what happens. Another guy I'd love to see do well, but obviously skeptical with his swim. Does really well on the bike, but and run, but just is so far back is Joe Skipper. Love that guy on podcasts. Just love to follow him. Met him in Oceanside and got to chat with him for a while in transition while he was watching the race. And super nice guy. Would love to see him do well, but I think the swim deficit being 5+ minutes, and he's probably going to lose time on the bike to the front of the race with some of these powerhouses and pack dynamics, and then probably run himself somewhere in that 10 to 20 range. But would love to see him get up in that top 5 to 10. I think that would be a great day for him. But I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. It's going to be an interesting piece in terms of the race itself. Sounds like course wise, it's going to be a non wetsuit swim for the pros. So that could play in for some of those guys who are stronger swimmers here, could mean some bigger gaps to some of those guys like a Sam Long or a Joe Skipper who maybe benefit a little bit more from a wetsuit as being not as strong of a swimmer. Bike looks like it's going to be pretty nice conditions, but we know this run is always pretty warm and exposed. It's not going to be Kona level warm, but definitely gets warm on that run. So people who overbiked and didn't take care of themselves on the cooling and hydration side of things could get a little bit beat up from this. So we will see what happens. It's going to be super exciting. Race goes off this coming Sunday, the 14th. So interested to see how it goes. And yeah, send me a message and let me know who your picks are. So my podium I'm going to go with is going to be, I think I'd put in one Martin Van Riel. I'm calling for the win. I think he's slow playing this injury and he's actually in a good spot. And then I'm going to go Gustav Eden and then Christian Blumenfeld and Sam Laidlow, just rounding out the Sam Laidlow and Patrick Lange going 4 and 5 in this. So bit of a hot take on the Martin Van Riel win. I may live to regret that one, but is what it is. And let's give it a shot. Good luck to anybody out there racing the event, and we will catch up with you next week.